This is a video that I'm making mostly because the Boy Scouts are getting a lot of attention right now because they've decided to drop boy from their name and they're starting to admit girls. The reason I'm making this is because there is a lot of misinformation going around about this, and because I am personally so involved with the Scouts, and I know a lot of my friends probably are questioning that. A lot of my friends are probably thinking, you know, how can you be a part of an organization that has butchered itself and made so many changes that it's bent to politically correct pressure. I wanted to set the record straight, mostly because I feel like if I'm involved in it, then people are going to associate me with it. And if they have these wrong ideas about what the Boy Scouts are doing, then they're going to have wrong ideas about me. And I wanted to set that straight, but I also wanted to really have an honest discussion about this because so much of what's going around is people being angry about change. I understand that. I mean, you have an institution, something that's been around for almost over 100 years, and why change now, right? Why do we need to change? Why can't the Boy Scouts be for boys and the Girl Scouts be for girls? And I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the Girl Scouts because honestly, I don't know very much about the Girl Scouts. I have a couple daughters. They spent some time in Girl Scouts, but not a lot, and I didn't get very involved. So I can't speak to what the Girl Scouts are doing, but I can absolutely talk about what the Boy Scouts are doing. Personally, I am an Eagle Scout. I got my Eagle in 1985. I've been a Cub Master for 4 years as my son went through Cub Scouts. I'm now an Assistant Scout Master for his Boy Scout troop. And I help out at the district level as a roundtable commissioner and also as a unit commissioner. So I'm very involved in scouting. And I'm proud to be involved in scouting. I think the things that it tries to teach the boys, the things that it will now try to teach all kids, not just boys, are worthwhile things. You know, if you've taken any time to learn about scouting, you know that the Scout Oath says, "On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight." And I would challenge anyone who says, well, scouting's for boys, it's not for girls. Listen to what I just said and ask yourself, what in there is not for girls? What did I just say that you wouldn't want a girl to learn? That we're teaching boys to be men. Okay, great. Why can't we teach girls to be good women? On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country. So we're teaching a duty to God and a duty to your country, to be patriotic and to be a good citizen. I want my girls to learn that as much as I want my son to learn that. To obey the Scout law. I'll get to that in a minute. To help other people at all times. You don't want your daughters to be helpful people that think of others and serve others. To keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Again, all things that, yes, I want my son to learn those qualities, but I'd also want my daughters to learn those qualities. That's not uniquely boy. There's nothing there that you're teaching a boy to be a man. I mean, you're just teaching a child to be a good human being, to serve other people, and to think of other people before himself or herself. So we say we'll obey the Scout law. Well, what's the Scout law? The Scout law says that a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Those are the 12 points of the Scout law. Again, I ask you, which one of those points is uniquely boy? Which one of those points do you not want your daughters to learn to be? You don't want your daughters to be trustworthy? You don't want your daughters to be loyal or helpful? You don't want them to be friendly or courteous? You don't want them to learn how to be kind or obedient or cheerful or thrifty and brave and clean and reverent? What there says that it's just for boys. And and that's what bothers me, is these people who say, well, Boy Scouts is to teach boys how to be men. Well, yes, in a way it is. We want our boys to grow up to be better men. We want them to grow up to be good husbands, good fathers, good leaders in their community. Yes, we want all of those things. But don't we want our daughters to grow up to be good wives, good leaders in their community, good mothers? These qualities aren't uniquely for men or women. They're for both. So why wouldn't we open the program up to everybody? It's a terrible, terrible argument. I mean, you might be able to make other arguments, like the fact that boys need their own space and they need their own time to just be boys. I'll give you that. I agree with that. But if you've taken time to see how the BSA is going to implement this policy, you'd see that that still exists. Okay, they're not planning to just throw boys and girls together like a classroom or like school or like many of the other activities that allow boys and girls to come together. They're still giving boys space to be boys and to be themselves. But see, again, so many people are just reacting. They're not taking time to see what is actually going on, and they're just reacting. Oh my gosh, boys and girls together. Anarchy, the world's going to come to an end. The Boy Scouts are still teaching the same values that they've taught since I was a scout. I mean, the oath and law aren't any different than they were in 1985 when I became an Eagle. I don't know if it was different in the 50s or the 60s or the whatever, but at least they haven't changed it in the last 30 years. It's still the same oath. It's still the same law. We're still teaching the same things. And so I would encourage anyone who's bothered by this change, anyone who thinks that this is the end of scouting, that the Boy Scouts of America are now caving into political correctness, I challenge you to really learn what's going on. And if you're concerned about what the boys are learning, then why don't you get involved? Because honestly, at the end of the day, the people who control what the boys are learning are the leaders, are the adults who get involved and work with the boys and teach the boys, right? I mean, the Boy Scouts of America creates a framework. They create a program, but it takes adults to deliver that program. And who are you going to leave that to? If you don't step up and lead these boys, and now lead these girls, then who else is going to? And if you're really concerned about what they're going to learn and who's going to be teaching them, then do it. Step up and teach them yourself. And then you can tailor the program the way that you want them to be taught. But if you just step back and say, well, this is a mess and I don't want to be involved, well, then guess what? Somebody else is going to step up, and you may not like the way they teach things. But I'll go back to that whole idea that, well, there's Boy Scouts for boys and there's Girl Scouts for girls. That's not true, because they're different organizations. The Boy Scouts of America has no control over the Girl Scouts of America. They're totally different organizations. And again, I'm not going to speak to what the Girl Scouts teach, but the Boy Scouts have no control over what the Girl Scouts teach. So the Boy Scouts can't go to the Girl Scouts and say, well, you're going to teach girls to be trustworthy and loyal and helpful and friendly and courteous. That's the Boy Scout program. That's the program of the BSA, all right? And they can't go to Girl Scouts and say, that's what you're going to teach. The Girl Scouts teach whatever they want to teach. And for some people, maybe that's not what they want their girls to learn. Maybe in some cases, the Girl Scouts of America, again, I don't even want to talk about what they teach because I don't know what they teach. But I do know what the Boy Scouts teach, and I know that it's a good program. It's a program that is applicable to boys and girls, and I don't see a reason why this can't work. I don't see a reason. I've yet to have anybody come and tell me or give me a good argument why girls shouldn't learn what the same things that we're teaching boys in scouting. I've heard other arguments. Again, I've heard other arguments that I think are somewhat valid. and there are some concerns, and I'm aware of those. But I don't think curriculum is an honest argument against girls in scouting. And this whole idea that, scouting has just caved to the left, and we don't, now that we accept homosexuals in scouting, and we accept homosexual leaders, and now we accept girls, that scouting is just caving into the left. The program hasn't changed. And again, I would argue that, your religious beliefs, you may not believe in homosexuality, you may not think it's right, but at the end of the day, do your religious beliefs really tell you to ostracize those people? Do your religious beliefs really tell you that you should shun those people and not include them? Or should you reach out to them? Should you care for them as much as you care for everybody else? Is there any reason that maybe because a boy is homosexual or a girl is homosexual that I don't want to teach them these values? Again, I go back to, it doesn't matter who you're teaching these values to. They're worthwhile values. The Scout Oath and the Scout Law are worthwhile no matter who is receiving it. Honestly, whether a boy or an adult is receiving it. There are a lot of adults I've met who need to learn how to be trustworthy and loyal and helpful and friendly. The program is worthwhile. The program is absolutely worthwhile. And regardless of who the audience is, it's a worthwhile program. And if you don't believe that, if you really honestly don't believe that those values and those things aren't worthwhile, then we can't have a conversation, because I just honestly wouldn't agree with that. So again, I'm making this video because I wanted to let people know. I guess it just really bothers me, because scouting is an organization that I believe in wholeheartedly. It bothers me that people are speaking so poorly about scouting and not knowing why they're speaking so poorly about scouting, making uninformed arguments and uninformed accusations. And the truth is that I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm humbled to be an Eagle Scout. I'm glad that my son is involved in scouting. I think the things that he's learning in scouting are absolutely teaching him to be a better person, teaching him to be a better man, teaching him to be a good husband, a good father, a good leader. I think that if my daughter wanted, I have one daughter who's still at an age where she could join scouting. My other daughter's too old. But I think if my daughter wants to join once the program is opened up to scouting, I would be thrilled for her to join scouting if that's what she chooses to do. I just wanted to set the record straight on that in kind of more words than I could do with a simple Facebook post. So I'm making this video. But anyway, if you've taken the time to listen, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you cared enough to listen to the video. Please feel free to share it with anyone who might have questions about why the Scouts are making a change. I am not an official BSA spokesperson, so, who knows, the BSA might see my video and shut me down and cease and desist, whatever, that's fine if they do. But by all means, feel free to share this, and I guess just talk about what is going on instead of just pointing fingers and accusing people. So have a great day.